Remember in The Dark Knight how the Joker questioned the very core of Gotham's police force and pushed Batman to the edge? Imagine that chaos. But instead of Batman jumping in, it's regular people who think they're better than the people who are supposed to protect us. Get ready for a wild ride through the most shocking fights that will make you wonder, what on earth were they thinking? The standoff in Oklahoma. Old people are thought to be a bit more stubborn than young people, but this is something else. It sounds absurd, but this was the case in the open roads of Oklahoma. Being 65 years old with the rebellious spirit of an adolescent, she was not going to let a broken taillight diminish her spirit. This was no ordinary day on the road. Instead, it was just the beginning of a thrilling action movie. When the officers attempted to pull her for a minor offense, she drew the red line and decided to take the cops on a high-speed chase. Imagine an outlaw grandmother out of her rocking chair and behind the wheel, defying not only speed limits, but also the same officers enforcing them. In what would turn into a ridiculous and dangerous chase, the taser standoff perfectly captured the reality of the situation. The scenario not only captures the absurd, but also the solemnity of the folly. The segment is not only in its peak, the entertainment value of the clip, but also serves as an analogy to the fact that challenging a law is a costly and stupid decision irrespective of age. Bar brawl with a former mayor's wife. In a town full of familiar faces, the bar brawl involving the town's former mayor's wife quickly became the clear example of anything but what residents would expect to see. Her evening was filled with jokes and laughter, which only ended with a masked chaos ensuing and aimed at the most unexpected for a resident of this town, herself. Ultimately, a large amount of alcohol only served to weaken her already boundaries, resulting in an argument in which she was up against all the uniform-wearing boys in blue. She used to have an extraordinary reach almost anywhere in town. Thus, this narrative speaks to more than the simple act of public disorder. Instead, more critical issues of power, prestige, and the measure of consequences become evident. Regardless of all the roots and grounds on which the woman suddenly stood, from that night, they became anchors around her neck that dragged her down into the police wagon. Consequently, this section challenges the audience with an examination of power, privilege, and how their spheres overlap with the understanding of what society wants from you. Jacqueline's Airport. Altercation. Picture being at your flight's departure gate, certain about starting your journey to the destination. While the seating is being done on the plane, you understand that you have not been given a window seat. The outcomes of these are unexpected. Not only does Jacqueline interact recklessly with airline staff, but she also connects with armed authorities in the end. Individual irritability, which should have been displeasing but for rational discipline, turned into uncontrolled anger. This episode explores the unpredictability and the depths of humanity, focusing on how we can go from almost unbearable problems to real fights. This is not a myth, but rather a real look in the mirror, showing how one can be too resistant to understand if she will eventually hear she or he regrets. You can laugh at this story, but it's also important to think about how important compromise and being able to learn are. Jamie Granger's meth-induced misadventure. Jamie Granger's story, once anchored on solid ground, is a rather gruesome and dangerous story that deals with the topic of reckless driving. Her trajectory from the parking lot of the convenience store to the back of a police car is anything but linear. Whether it is her high on methamphetamine, extreme resistance to being arrested, or the pattern of being very stubborn and refusing to cooperate, every scene underscores the dangerous effects of drug use. This part of the narrative focuses on the following issues: the theme of addiction and substance abuse, communication failure, and the complexity faced by law enforcement from a suspect's inebriation situation. It powerfully drives home the point that the fine line between order and disorder can be rapidly blurred by the effect of the drugs. At the same time, the narrative serves the dual purpose of being a story of caution regarding the risks of methamphetamine and people's safety as a whole. Aurora's bar meltdown. Outside the bar, Aurora becomes a complete crybaby, suffering a meltdown that catches the eye of everyone who lives in that town. Despite humans physically restraining her, the weird character comes alive with misunderstood screams and resistance. At first impression, the Aurora bar spectacle would be a tale of poor behavior that unfolds thereafter to mistakenly believe different human emotions and alcohol's impact. Aurora's experience is a tale of the age that challenges us to recognize our capabilities and lacks in totality, especially while drunk. This story is not only informative as it paints a picture of the spectacle, but also educative in the sense that it makes us question our own levels of awareness and the right mechanism to cope with life's issues. The first and second videos portray a relationship between inner pain and public exposure, consequently painting the imperfection of human behavior following alcohol consumption. Brandy McGowan's Walmart Showdown. In the most unordinary of all battlefields, a Walmart at Marietta, Georgia, becomes the war ground for a high-stakes showdown as Brandy McGowan opts to equip herself with a blue pocket knife. What was initially planned to be just an ordinary shopping spree turns out to be a visual demonstration of the safety in public areas. The episode explores the broader view of drug abuse, notably in public environments, and the struggles of law enforcement to maintain the complete peace and quiet of such situations. Brandy's story just goes to prove, even though all people who carry a gun or knife are not dangerous, they will be beaten into a pulp by the cops for not obeying the law. The unraveling of Christina Cabot. Christina Cabot's story from a pillar of public life to the primary troublemaker in a barroom fight is a not-so-inspiring tale of just how dramatically alcohol can change a person. She refused to vacate the premises on the police's command, then engaged in a fistfight with the cops as well. The narrative of Christina offers a look inside how law enforcers react when dealing with people who are not a fan of obeying the law. They do not care if you are drunk, rich, or angry. Her story is a great and cautionary reminder about the not-so-good nature of alcohol. This tale encourages us to question our own behavior and the spirits that frequently rule it. Walgreens confrontation. What appeared to be a regular day at a Walgreens turned into a massive fight after a racist rant toward a group of Muslims. This story does not only expose the fight, but also the bigger picture within the society and how some occurrences result in encounters. There was proper justice and fairness demonstrated when police arrested the person who initiated the fight. What will happen in our next episode of Dumb People Who Don't Really Know When to Not Give Up? Could it be even more confusing than the ones we just saw? Join the chat below and say, which story moved you and why? Don't forget to click the like button and join to get more exciting stories about people who break the law. Your ideas not only make our conversations better, they also help us find better quality content. Thanks for being a part of our YouTube fam. For now, until the next episode, stay interested, stay curious, and remember that every decision has a story.